Hello everybody, and welcome to another puzzle challenge video with chessuniversity.com. This is Ryan Murphy, and since we are now into Thursday, at least in the United States, it's time for our first medium difficulty puzzle of the week. So this one's aimed at an audience of players, I would say, below roughly 1500 in strength. And the position before you is black to play and win. There are a lot of moves which end up giving black a great position because black already has a great position. The knight on d3 is dominating at the flexible, fluid pawns on f5 and e5. So, I mean, and of course, white's king's a little bit open. But there's a way that wins a lot of material rather quickly. So that's the one we're looking for. It is the best move in the position. So if you see it, make sure you post it on chessuniversity.com on the official post, and you can get rewards points on your account there. And I'll put the link in the description for that post, as I always do. So check out tomorrow to see if you got it right. We'll put the solution up about 24 hours after this video comes out. So, as I said, it's black to play and win. And let's go through the game to see how we got here. This was another blitz game played on chess.com, played between a 1700 and a 2300 level player. And yeah, let's take a look through the game. So the game began as a Sicilian, and white went for the Rossolimo, trying to exchange this bishop for knight and force black to take back with a pawn, to double the pawns. Black went g6, and white went ahead and executed that idea. B takes c6. It's also possible to take with the d pawn to open up the light squared bishop. I'm pretty sure Carlsen did that at least a couple times, and it's a pretty dynamic way to play, but both moves are possible. Castles, bishop g7, d3, d6, rook to e1, and e5. And you see that black now has a very good clamp on the d4 square, so it's going to be very difficult for white to achieve that breakthrough to open up the game. The downside, of course, is that the bishop is blocked in, but this is fairly good control, and in the long run, there are ideas of black cycling this knight into the d4 square, especially if white commits a very early c4, which would probably be a big mistake. So, anyway, white goes c3, bishop g4, indirectly controlling the d4 square also because of the pin on the knight. Bishop to e3, knight to e7, h3, takes. So black gave up their pair of bishops, but in exchange it looks like it's going to be really hard for white to play the move d4 ever, and black just has a lot of space in the center. So black's doing pretty fine here. Castles, knight to d2, and now a very thematic move when there's no chance that the center is going to get blown open. Usually you see this when the center is completely already locked, but the move f5 makes a lot of sense here, especially because the rook is already opposite the queen on f3. So pawn takes f5, and g takes f5. Maybe not the best. There are other moves that are pretty strong here. Queen d7 comes to mind. Looking to retake with a piece, potentially, on the f5 square. Also the move knight d5 is interesting. And the main point, of course, is that, like, the pawn on the f-file is pinned, right? Like, it can't actually continue to take. So there's really no threat, and black can take this pretty much whenever they want. So there's other moves that can be used as well. Sort of gain initiative on the king side. So back to the game. After pawn takes, bishop g5 was played, pinning the knight. Rook to c8. I should point out here that takes and takes is at least something that black has to think about, so that explains the move rook c8, protecting the pawn. Probably wasn't necessary, but understandable. So yeah, queen g3, king h8, getting out of any possible nasty tactics along the g-file. Probably it would also make sense for black to play queen d7 or queen e8 to unpin themselves so the knight can move, but king h8 is logical. Queen h4, putting pressure on the knight, rook f7, awkward, but you either have to play that or rook e8 to not lose material. So I guess, yeah, that's pretty much it. f4 played, and now, yeah, white's doing pretty well. Using this pin, they're actually managing to get some pressure. They're trying to open up the e-file. So, you know, white's doing some good stuff here, getting a very active position all of a sudden. Queen f8 played, getting out of the pin, and then takes. And now a very important move, knight g6, in-between move. In-between moves are often very easy to miss. Without this, if instead, white had just taken back, like d takes. Well, I think at minimum, moves like, I think you can even take on e7, and it's slightly awkward. Because now this is going to get piled up on, takes, and then rook e2 followed by rook e1, and yeah, this pawn's going to be something of a weakness potentially, and this would be pretty good for white. So yeah, it's very important for black that they start with this move. They kick the queen out, they keep the knight on the board, they reinforce the e5 square. All right, so queen retreats to f2. Now d take e5, bishop to e3, attacking the pawn on c5, and instead of worrying about this, because there's not too much really that can be done to protect the pawn, black focuses on counterattack, which is absolutely what they should do. So queen d8 played. The other moves that do that would be either rook d7 or rook d8, both of which are pretty decent. Let's say rook d8, bishop takes c5, and a move like queen e8 or queen g8 just to get out of the way. In the long run, or maybe even in the short run, it's going to be really difficult to defend this pawn. So, yeah. Moves like, I don't know, queen e1, or sorry, queen f1 or queen e2 are pretty passive. And also knight f4 is going to come with a renewed threat. Note now that there's threats of even removing this bishop to open up an attack along the g-file. So, counterplay is often the way to go when you've got a bad structure. You want to start creating threats. So anyway, queen d8, similar idea. It's just that now, not really sure what this rook on c8 is going to do, so this rook ends up being slightly passive. Bishop takes c5, knight f4, very active, and yeah, this is where it kind of starts to collapse for white. If we go back here, I think taking on c5 is definitely a mistake. Moves like rook ag1, including the last piece in the game, is very logical, because then queen takes d3 is possible. It's not like the queen's going to get trapped or anything. But knight f3, and black's position just kind of looks like it's a mess. These pieces are not really communicating with each other. The rooks are disconnected. The queen's kind of floating. And of course, the structure is really bad, and likely white's going to be picking up some pawns on the queen side. So, I mean, there's greedy options, right? There's trying to cling to pawns with like queen b5 or queen c4. But in general, it just feels like white's going to have some attack coming on the king side or through the center just because of how good their pieces are there. So it's possible to play differently. Like if white wasn't going for this pawn on c5, which isn't going to really run away, and they instead try to activate their pieces, I think white would have had a really good position. But they took c5, and then after knight f4, they found themselves in a lot of trouble because now there's pressure on d3, which everyone at home hopefully notices is going to be a fork. And so that got defended. And then after knight takes d3, rook d1, we notice that we're at our starting position. So it's once again black to play and find a really good move. And yeah, basically black's winning at this point. So hopefully you guys find it, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching.